to YouTube. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wood. Okay, so what we have right now is our handout that is at the table for you, or you're looking at the screen. We're going to create a value scale from dark to light using our charcoal pencil. And we're also going to create a sphere today, emphasizing the highlights, the transitional light medium, the core shadow, the reflective light, and the cast shadow. So on this paper, on the newsprint paper that you have, not the gray paper, we're going to create the value chart, and we're going to create the sphere. We're also going to dabble into drawing the ear, and we're going to create the contour line, and that's on the back of your sheet. The contour line of the ear, and then we're going to put in the values that we use with our charcoal pencil from dark to light. If most of you read on the screen, you also needed a white piece of chalk. At home, if you don't have white chalk, you just leave that space white, okay? And if you don't have charcoal pencil, you'll just use regular pencil. But in class, you have a charcoal pencil. You have what you need to blend, which is your tissue or stub and stick. You have an eraser, and you have a white piece of chalk. This is a white pencil. It's just like chalk, but it has the pencil on it, okay? So you have those things ready set. At the end of class, you're going to take a photo of your artwork. You're going to submit it to Google Classroom for a grade. Parent-teacher conference is coming up, and I am just hoping that I don't have to tell anybody's parent that they just lay around on their phone and not do the artwork during class period, whether you are remote or not. I want to be able to tell them some very, very good news about what you're learning and what you're actually accomplishing in art class for your grade. Now, let's go ahead and begin. We're going to start with creating a small value chart. And so on your handout in the very front, you see some shading from dark to light. I want you to pick just the top part of your paper and create you kind of a rectangle. Okay, it doesn't have to be very long, just a couple of inches maybe, because we're going to fill in this rectangle with our charcoal pencil from dark to light. Okay. And just like with our pencil at the very top, that's where you put in this chart, we're going to fill in some values. And you would notice something different about the charcoal pencil that the pencil don't have. It has a really good grip to it. Matter of fact, if you don't press down and you just go back over it, notice how I'm shading with the flat part of the pencil. And you don't press down, but you keep going over and over and over that section, how dark it gets. I can even change directions and go a different direction, stand within my rectangle square, and put another layer of darkness. And then switch over again and put another layer. I have not changed the pressure of my pencil yet. I've just kept that same pressure down on the paper, but I've layered it over and over and over. And I'm switching directions as well. Okay. So now, wouldn't you say this is a really, really dark value? I would say so. Okay. And then you can use your tissue to really kind of line that up, make it look nice and neat within that square. And do not use your fingers to shake away the dust or to move the dust out of the way. You can, like she just did, you can kind of wag your paper on your table or your floor area. No, don't do it on the floor, because then we're going to have a whole bunch of smears on the floor. We can't, especially even at home, just do that on your table, dust it real lightly. Or if you have what I call a duster or a brush, you can dust up like that. Okay? We can erase all of those smears so easily. Look at that. Look how that erases nice and neatly. Okay? But don't put any charcoal dust on the floor. Okay? You have to look up at the countertop. Next, we're going to add another value here, but notice how this other value is not going to be as dark as the other one. Look at that. Okay, so now I'm not even going to press down hard. Okay, I'm just going to get that value light and blend it. But it's not too light. It gradually fades into that darker value here. But it is a step lighter. So I'm going to get a little closer so you can see how it's barely a difference in that value, but it's there. Okay? If you find that it's too dark, I do take my finger and I dab and I lift up that color just a little bit. Okay, I lift that color and now we can really see that transition from dark to light. Okay? Then go to the next value. Barely lay down that value, shading it in. Barely lay it down. Put enough charcoal there to blend with your tissue, but not pressing down too hard, remember. Because if you press down too hard, it's going to get way too dark on you, isn't it? And it's going to look like the value here. And if that happens, I like to take my eraser and do this. I just lift up a little bit of charcoal. Now, visually, it shows that this value here is now lighter than the value there. And I'm blending those values together. I don't want a complete line there though, okay? Look at that, looks great. You might not want to blow because the dust will go back into your mouth and your nose, but you do have your mask on, so that matters. Now, for the next value, I recommend that you do not even use your pencil for all of those lighter values. You know what I would use? Just the tissue or your stubbing stick, and I would do this. Pull color from that value and just gradually fade it in. And then, of course, I'm going to get lighter and lighter as it goes away. And I'm going to erase at the end to let myself know that it goes even lighter all the way over. And we are still live streaming right now. Thank you for being really quiet. On this very last value, which is white, guess what I want to do? I want to literally put that white chalk in that square. So what we have is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 value chart. We have a really dark. We have a number 6. We have a number 5. You don't have to number these if you don't want to. A 3, a 2, a 1, a 2, and a 1. 1 being the white chalk. 2 being the paper itself, the color of the paper itself, which for you is the newsprint paper. Okay? And then number 3, a little bit of just the blending with the tissue only. This one has pencil, but it's blended. And this one has pencil, and that's the darkest dark. But you want to know what I need to do? I need to make my darkest dark really dark again. Because when I kind of brushed it away, I lost some of the really, really deepness. Okay, now I see value from dark to light. Now at home, if you don't have the charcoal pencil, you're just doing pencil. You're shading with your pencil 6 values from really, really dark pressing down all the way to 1 where there's no pencil at all. But your pencil will go really dark to light all the way across in that value range. Okay? And this is called our value scale. So whenever you guys are working on your art and I make a comment on Google Classroom and I say, oh, you're missing value 3. What you do is you look at your chart and find where value 3 is and say, oh, that's the value that I'm missing in my drawing. And then you'd go back and you'd find areas where you can apply value 3. Most of our drawings that we will have, for example, the spear, has all of those 6 values in it, sometimes even 5. Let's discuss those highlights now. I'm going to fold my paper. You don't have to fold yours. I just want you to be able to see, okay? So you also see that right over here on the screen, the value chart. But on your paper, you also have it. In a little bit, you're going to get a circle object anywhere around the room. Or if you know how to do a good circle, that's fine. Sometimes you can find, even at home, some tape that has a circle. You want to do a medium size, not too big and not too small. So here's a top, and that top is really a perfect circle. So that's what I would use, okay? And I'm going to give everybody time to do that. Now, if I look at my spear, it's allowing me to see those different values. I see cast shadow right here. So whenever we start talking about cast shadow, even on the face, or when we draw objects that we sit on our table, that's called a still life, you'd be able to see the cast shadow. It's literally the darkest shadow that sits on the table. Then there is a reflective light in the spear. This reflective light is light that is in the shadow, and this the core shadow. The core shadow, as you can see, actually make this circle look like a spear. It changed it and made it look 3D. That's how we're going to take this flat 2D circle and make it look round like a spear by creating the core of the shadow right along its edge. Notice how it fades into the light but keeps a shadow. It's called the transitional light medium value. It goes from core shadow into the light of a shadow. And watch what happens next. It goes into that number 2, doesn't it? And that number 3, then that 2, and bam, that highlight, that number 1. That number 1 is what the light, the artificial light or the sun would shine on it so bright that it leaves it completely bright. That will be the highlight. And for us in the classroom, we're using the white chalk to represent the number 1. So let's mentally number each of these values, okay? Let's mentally number them. Number 1 would be your highlight. Number 2 will be this transitional light right here. Number 3 will be the transitional light medium value there. Number 4, we're starting to get a little darker, aren't we? We're going into that shadow with 4 right here and 5 right there. And then we're hopping right back over to number 4 here for this reflective light right down there in that corner before, bam, it hits the cast shadow, number 6. Isn't that awesome? And so we're going to change this here circle to a sphere. All right, I'm going to give people at home and in classroom 1 minute. Go find a circle object and lay it here on your paper. 1 minute. And I'm looking at my time, even at home. Thank you for being so quiet while you're doing that. Good job. Good job. Really quietly. Excellent. Any circle object that you can find, we'll put, and we're going to trace that circle object. At home, you got 60 seconds. I'm online. The louder you talk, the more they can hear. If it's a circle, you can use it. Good job. Excellent. Now, let's lay our circle object on our paper, and let's do something so easy that we learned in kindergarten. Let's hold that object down with our hand, with one hand. Use your drawing hand now and trace slowly all around. Do not press down too hard, okay? Just lightly is fine. Go around the edge, okay? If it gets a little wonky, that's okay. You'll take your eraser and you'll erase away what you don't need that did not form the shape of that circle. Excellent job. Now, so right now we have our circle traced. If you have charcoal pencil, yes, these do sharpen, but you don't put it into the sharpener too long, okay? Just barely put it in there and it does its job, okay? So let's do ourselves a favor right now. Thank you for not talking during class because we are on YouTube. You are doing awesome. Now, what we want to do is let's start very light and work our way darker, okay? So let's now look at, you know what? Nah, I don't want to do that. I want to go dark to light. Looking at our reference photo, what is our darkest dark? It's called I'm pointing to it. Thank you. Let's now draw the cast shadow that is the same cast shadow on the handout that you see. All the way across. And you're drawing exactly what you see on your reference photo. This cast shadow. It's even named for you. Cast shadow. Okay? And usually the cast shadow is an elongated shape of the object. And what value number is the cast shadow? Thank you. Let's all now start filling in with the flat part of our pencil. And remember that we're going to, number one, layer. So the first layer is not going to be so dark, is it? But as we keep layering on top, it's going to get darker and darker every layer that we make. So excited, guys. You're going to do an awesome job on this. Okay? And you're just going to keep layering and layering and layering. You're going to add more and more. Keep going. Keep layering. And before you know it, it's going to look like that number 6 value that we did at the very top. Let's keep it going. Using the flat part of that pencil so that you don't have the tip of the pencil real pointy showing. And this is why Ms. Sherman say we never would use mechanical pencils unless we're doing illustration. because you can't really do good shading with a mechanical pencil. So I'm going into value number 6, layering again, a second layer.
It's a little black. It's a little blacker than the same. See?
And we're still going. And midway between my values, I like to take my blender and I like to blend what I already have when I do about 3 layers in, just to let myself see that it's coming to a number 6. Now I know that I can go a little bit darker, so that's what I'm going to do, especially close to the bottom of the circle. I'm really going to get dark there. Now as it fades away here, I can let it go lighter like this. So as it goes further out to my left or wherever way you're drawing, it gets lighter as that it goes away from the bottom of the circle. And in real life, if we were to lay a spear circle on our table, we would really see and turn the lights off and just put one shining light on the table, we would see how that cast shadow looks. But today we don't have enough spear objects for you. Okay. Now I'm loving mine. You can test it out. Let's look again. That number 9 looks just like that cast shadow here. Not number 9, number 6. And watching how I layered. I did not press down the first time real hard and get it over with. I layered there so that as I go out away from the circle, that cast shadow got lighter. I'm going to clean my edges up. I like things to look nice and neat. So I'm going to take my eraser and really reshape that cast shadow to look like it's really shaped on my reference photo. Kind of circular on the end. Okay. Not as wide, so I want to take a little bit of that away before I move on to adding shadows and shading into my circle to make it look 3D. And it's sitting on the tabletop, so we are going to give some value for the background, but not right now. Right, give yourself a thumbs up or a pat on the back if you've made your cast shadow to be a number 6 right underneath the circle. And then as it went far away, it did gradually go into a number 5. All right. Now let's create the shadows. So the shadows kind of shape like a moon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this up. And I'm going to put a very light line. I'm starting in the middle of the circle. And very lightly, I'm going to draw me a half a moon. Half of a moon. And it's so light that you can barely see it, right? But it looks like a moon. And it goes right, circle right into the curve of the circle. Do that half moon in there. Now, guess what, guys? I apply these values the same way I do this when I do portraits. To make my portraits look 3D, I apply these same value and shadings. And that's how people will look at your portraits later and be like, wow, how did you make that look 3D? Or they'll look at a simple shoe that you draw and say, how did you make that look 3D? Because of the shadows. Because I learned that in Art 1. Why you didn't learn it? Now, all right, we're ready to move on. Yes, absolutely. And so we're going to move now into the half moon here on the dark side. All right. So I'm going to start off what? Shading lightly. Filling in that moon. And I'm not going to get dark until I see where the dark lays in my reference. We are filling in that core shadow. Lightly at first. Circle of motions, filling that paper all the way in. And we'll put a second layer on top and so on until we get the desired value of the spear. And look how I'm going over there too. I'm going in there. I'm getting that moon shape really filled in, just like it looks on my reference photo that you see on your screen, or if you're at home, you've printed it out. Okay? Try to keep the shape of your object. Erase where you go outside your line. It's okay if you erase. I erase too. No one's perfect. But we are going to get this spear to look like a spear. So now I'm about to put my second layer on. And remember, in that third layer, after the third layer, we're going to use that tissue to really blend in that charcoal into the paper so that we can get the true value of what we're working with. Notice the difference in pencil and charcoal now? I like charcoal.
Oh, yeah, right. It's not what I read.
I don't have any more. I'm filling it in. I'm still on number 2 value, layering. Number 2 layering. I didn't miss no spaces. I'm trying to fill in as much as that paper that I see, as much as I can. It's starting to look like that already, isn't it? And I haven't even started blending. Okay, now I think I'm ready for number 3. Now I'm going to press down slightly, just a little harder, but not as hard as this number 9. No, 6. Why do I keep saying 9? Because we've already done a number 9 value chart before. But we're doing 6 with charcoal. That's why I keep saying that. So I'm going over again, but again, not so dark that it matches the cast shadow, because we're working on the core shadow. The core shadow shapes the object into 3-dimensionality. And if you go outside the line of your circle, that's okay. You'll just remember to erase. All right. I know that this is real simple project today, but it's going to matter when we get ready to do our final work. Okay, because you're going to be applying these techniques into the final drawing itself. All right. It's gonna matter, I promise. Now, after number 3, I want to use my blending stick or tissue, taking my time and really getting that graphite blended into the paper. This is going to let me be able to see my value, real value. Now I notice that mine is already lighter than that cast shadow number 6. And that's what I'm going for, am I? Aren't I? I'm going for a little darker. This is going to look great when we're done, and you're going to be so proud of yourself that you changed a simple old circle into a sphere. And this is going to be like an easy 100 for you, right? And I'm going in on that edge so that that line that I drew, I can't even see that line anymore because I blended that charcoal on that line. Fabulous. Now I got to do some erasing, y'all, because I'm so messy with my charcoal. I got all kind of rough edges around my circle. So I'm just going to clean it up just a little bit. All right. Now I'm very, very content with the fact that I have 3 transitional shading on top of each other, and I ended up with the value that is lighter than the number 6, and it's a 5. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to get that added in. Keep it going. Okay. Now we're going to move into that number, what? 4. Okay, the number 4 and 3. Well, guess what's going to happen, y'all? I'm not even going to use my charcoal pencil this time. Let me show you what I'm going to do, and then you are going to do it. Check it out. I'm going to take my blending stick, for you, tissue or paper towel, and I'm going to grab some of the chalk from this number 5 value, and I'm going to pull it very lightly, like I'm holding a feather. I'm going so lightly. See, I had to change my voice too to real lightly so that I can actually not press down hard. I changed the tone of my voice to be very soft. And I'm just going to use this stick to blend the sulfur light values that is on here in that transitional middle light, and the highlight will be white. Let's do that. I'm going to make that so light. I'm not even pressing down hard. I'm holding this like it's a feather in my hand. And I'm going to know that I'm going to have one special part that's going to be totally white. So I'm using my stubbing stick and my tissue only at this time. And I'm fading that into the light. Where there is light, where there is shadow, there is always a light. The shadow can't stand the light. When it shines so bright, it has to be shown. There we go. And just say, for example, I accidentally get too dark Well, can't I just lift that up just slightly like this with my eraser? Yes, I can. And then I'll fix it by blending some more on top of the area that I made a little oops on. And I'm loving it so far because I can literally now see how it's fading from dark over here, cast shadow, core shadow, transitional light, and then the highlights. We ain't even got to the highlight yet, have we? Now, if you're using your tissue a lot and you're pressing down, that means that you're not using enough charcoal pencil to shade with. And you want to do that. Okay? Looking good, looking good. All right. Make sure it's nice and smooth. There's no streaks in it. Literally looks like one value is fading into the other. There's no line showing. It looks like it's just fading softly into the other area. Awesomeness, awesomeness. Okay? Now is the secret. The secret highlight. It's not really a secret. But I take my eraser and I kind of erase out on that right side just slightly. And I make sure that there's no graphite where that number 1 highlight would be. For those of you at home using that pencil, you'll erase out that highlight so that there is nothing at all there. And if you have charcoal and white chalk, you will now start using that white chalk in that spot that you erased. First, start off lightly, blend it softly, and you can put another layer on top of it as well. I'm going to fade this chalk slightly into that chalk of transitional value. But some part, like number 2, I'm not going to have any chalk at all. That's that number 2 value. Make sure you have a number 2. There's barely any chalk there. I'm going to use my finger this time to blend. There it is. I had to soften that up, and only my finger could do that. I'm really getting that stark light now. I'm going to get my second layer right there. Yes, gorgeous. It looks like now it looks like a moon, a full moon, instead of a spear, to me. I could be wrong. I'm going to soften that white up with my finger so that it gradually also fades into the gray, number 2. Now everything is super soft and gorgeous. Right down there, I see the reflective light. It's up against that really number 6. Okay, but you know what I feel like doing, guys? I feel like shading a smidget darker right here. It's not going to be at the bottom of that circle, but right above it. I'm going to go one more layer up. Not so dark as the cast shadow, though. Then I'm going to leave it alone. There we go. I like that now. Yes, yes. You know, the more that you practice values, the better you get. It's all about controlling how much pressure you put down on your paper with that charcoal pencil. Would you like to create a tabletop now? Okay, good. We'll do it. I like when y'all talk to me. I'm going to create a line going across on both sides. And I'm going to use my white chalk to create on this side only a light tabletop, but not over here. Only on this side. I'm going to go a little bit white. All right. Circle the motions, okay? Circle the motions. And I'm going to blend that white into the gray paper or brown paper, whatever color paper you have. If you're at home, you'll just leave that spot white, okay? And then above that tabletop is where I'm going to put a little bit of charcoal or pencil. Now, it's going to be lighter than what it's up against. So right there, that circle is darker right here. So I'm going to make sure what's next to it is not as dark. I'm going to fade outward. And I'm using my tissue to do that, or paper towel. This looks great. If you want to go a little darker, like right here, you can, but you can't put a dark up against another dark. It has to be the opposite. Y'all understood that? Thank you. So that's too dark. I told you, but then I did it wrong. I want to erase there, right there. Because I obviously don't want that my background to fade into my spear. My background and spear needs to be separated. Now let's continue to fill in some of the values in your background if you want to do that. I'll give you extra points for that. I like that this is a white highlight, so the background area right where it hits the white highlight, I got a little bit darker right there. But not as dark as I fade away. Pay attention where there's a light, there's a shadow next to it. Where there's a dark shadow, there's a light next to it. Kind of go opposites. On this side, I'm barely going to go dark. I want to go really light over here. Because my core shadow. Very good. Want to be all fancy. Gonna get some more values over here. Kind of got too squiggly there. I didn't like it. I don't like that. I took it away. I didn't quite like it. So what I can do now is I can use my eraser to show some different line values in my background if I wanted to show different type of lines. So I just scratch those out with my eraser, some kind of cross hatching or whatever you want to do. And if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. It just gives it more line variation. It can be plain like that, or it can have some behind it. Now they're still there. I just faded them with my piece of stubbing set. All right. So I'm cleaning it up now. everywhere. I'm trying to get me some nice cleanness going on. And I'm super proud of what I have accomplished here, and I know that you are, because you've just now shown how to make a flat, two-dimensional object look 3D by showing value. And we are going to apply this same technique to everything that we draw pretty much from this point on. Everything will have a cast shadow. Everything will have a fading transitional light. Everything will have a number 2 value and a highlight. And what I did was I tested myself. Now test yourself. Do you have a number 1? Do you have a number 2? Do you have a number 3 in your sphere? Do you have a number 4 in your sphere? Do you have a number 5? And do you have a number 6? So test yourself before you now are going to take a photo of it and submit it to Google Classroom before we move on to the next thing, which is going to be the ear. That's going to be the next video after this, the ear.